Hello, my beautiful bookish people. My name is Victoria Mendes, and I'm going to try doing a reading vlog for the first time in ages. With the flagrant killing of a black man by police officers and the fact that it's taking so long to arrest the officers who were complicit and carried out the murder, I have been really frustrated, and it's really hard for me to read when I am this frustrated. Originally, my library books that I got this month were supposed to be my first time reading the Cassandra Clare books in the order that she recommends. And while she does seem to be an ally and a lot of people like her books, I just don't feel like that is fully appropriate right now. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm just being weird about it. You let me know. But I was also just able to check out Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo, and previously I've read her book With the Fire on High, which was a really neat, I believe it's YA contemporary? I'm not great with book categorization, but I really liked that book. It had a really cool perspective. So I'm going to try another book by her that I was thankfully able to get on my Kindle. Let's dive in. So I'm not quite sure how I feel about this book yet. It's really neat because it's written in more of a poetry style, like I heard her first book was written, The Poet X. I haven't read that one yet. I'm about 10% of the way through it, and it's interesting to see the two different perspectives between the half sisters, but also it's not what I would typically read, which, I mean, that was kind of the point of me also reading this book, is because it's outside my comfort zone, but I'm already having problems focusing to read and reading something that I'm not avidly into. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, I'm only 10% of the way in. Also, world update, James Mattis just broke his silence, and that's a really big deal. And the way that he phrased how and why he broke his silence is beautiful. It's crazy times that we're in. It's crazy that this stuff still is happening. Why are people needlessly being killed? Why have we been so complacent with this for so long? I'm really looking forward to the Blackout Buddy read so that I can get a better idea of stuff that I didn't even know still existed. I just got back from a walk, which I am super excited about. Walks can be a big deal these days, so that's a good milestone. And I am now, I think, 82% of the way through the book, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. In the sense that it meets its description, absolutely it does. And it's pushing me out of my fantasy sci-fi comfort zone, which was what I wanted to do. But at times I get really confused with the way that it's written, and maybe this is a problem with the ebook, because sometimes I don't distinguish when different characters are talking, and then I get their storylines confused, and then I go back and reread it a few times, and then I'm still kind of confused. And maybe that's just a me thing, I don't know. But it's not that the story is bad, it's just that it's a story that I don't particularly enjoy. Like, I generally like reading about different cultures and different histories and different experiences, but I don't know, maybe it's because I don't have siblings, maybe it's because I haven't lost a parent, even though I kind of have by choice. It's written well. The wording which Elizabeth Acevedo uses is beautiful, but is it bad that I just don't care? Like, I've wanted to DNF this book so many times if it wasn't for the fact that I am specifically reading this to try to broaden my horizons and try to get myself out of my comfort zone and read something completely different from what I would typically read. But at what point do I decide to DNF something or finish it? I'm going to finish it now because I've said I wanted to do this to try to get myself out of my comfort zone. But I'm 82% of the way through and I'm not particularly loving it, and it's not because it's not written well, which I've ran into those books before too, where I've just been like, nope, not only do I not like it, but it's not written well, and that's not the problem in this case at all whatsoever. What do you guys do when you're reading something that just isn't speaking to you at the time? Like, maybe I could come back to this book later and really enjoy it. I don't know, but I don't see myself rereading it that often. And the way that I do my star rating system, which I'm debating whether or not to give this book because I don't feel like it quite does it justice. Typically, I would say 3-star is a book that just isn't for me. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a good book. I just don't plan to continuously reread it. A 4-star is something that I liked. I can see myself rereading several times, but it's not something that I reread constantly. And a 5-star would be something that I would try to return to every year or every so many, like 18, 24 months. I don't know. But, I mean, if I stick to that scale, I don't want that to reflect on the overall rating of the book, because in this case, it's not bad, it's just not for me. I'm really curious to hear your guys' opinions on that. I will finish the book now and let you know what I think at the end, I guess. Okay, so final thoughts time for Elizabeth Acevedo's Clap When You Land. I actually really did like the last 20% of the book, which is good. Would I personally reread this over and over again, even though I really like the last 20%? I don't think I will. It is beautifully written. Elizabeth Acevedo knows how to do prose. It's beautiful. At times it's hard to follow which character we're on until the very end, I think. But it's still a very well-written story. I would say that there's trigger warnings for loss of a parent. It talks a lot about grief and how these two sisters are handling grief. And it also covers sexual harassment. So what is the story about? This book is based off of flight AA587, which crashed to the ground in Queens, New York, which was on its way to the Dominican Republic. It's not referenced as that in the book, but at the end of the book it does have a blurb about where the inspiration came from, and 90% of the people on that plane who died were Dominicans who were returning home. So this also happened a little while after 9/11, and it wasn't really reported on. I was really surprised when I read the end of the book that explained where this story kind of came from. And I'm really glad to be hearing about it now. And the way that Acevedo uses the American and Dominican cultures to tell a beautiful story of grief and two sisters who, one lives in New York, one lives in the Dominican Republic, and they didn't know about each other until the event of their father's death, and how they cope with that and how they end up reaching out to one another and meeting each other. It's a beautiful story about grief. And I will also say that to understand the full picture of what is written, it would help if you also spoke Spanish or had a Spanish dictionary sitting around, or a friend who could help translate with you. It's been a long time since I've taken Spanish, but I was able to understand most of it. You can read the story without having Spanish knowledge, but it's not quite as impactful because not all of it is directly translated into English as well, but the points where it is supposed to be extra impactful, I do believe are translated so that you can read it just in English and get what Acevedo is trying to tell. I don't think I'll be giving this a rating on Goodreads, and it's making me question if I need to come up with a new rating system, because this book is beautifully written. It's a great story about grief. I just won't reread it over and over again because I don't like constantly reading about stories about grief, and I don't really connect with it. I appreciate it and it's beautiful, but I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss. I don't really know what to do or if I should change the way I rate things. So those were my thoughts on Clap When You Land. Thanks for watching.